Hello, everyone. My name is Andy Nowicki. With me, as usual, is my partner in thought crime, Colin Liddell. Today, Colin and I are assembled together to talk about our shared experience of recently being deplatformed by Facebook. Now, I have been on the social media site Facebook, I believe, since 2008, and Colin, have you been on Facebook for as long as I have?
I'm not sure which year I started, but I think it was about the same time, around about 2007, 2008. I'd like to check, but it's kind of hard to do now because my entire Facebook account and all its history has been completely zucked.
Yes, and permanently. Now that's what I think it would be interesting for us to talk about our how we both recently found out that this had happened. Now, I should say I have had the experience. I'm pretty sure you also have had the experience, and many people have had the experience of getting temporarily banned. You know, like you say a word that you're not supposed to say, or you I don't know. I don't even know how it
Well,
works.
yes, we've all been sent to the naughty step for posting the wrong link or meme or saying a word on a list that shouldn't be said. Exactly, yeah.
Right. And sometimes for me, you know, there was a time when things were more easygoing, more laissez-faire, and you could pretty much say what you wanted on Facebook, and there weren't any repercussions like back in the early freewheeling days. And I myself have since you know things cracked down, since there's been this general crackdown on freedom of speech by tech companies generally. I had a couple of times where I had some old posts of mine up from like 2011 or 2012, 2013 or something, and suddenly I got hit with a 30-day suspension because I used a word that wasn't forbidden back then.
That's right. This is retroactive censorship. So they decide that this word is now taboo, and then they go back into your ancient history. They do a bit of archaeology, and they dig down into the depths of your Facebook account, and they find out that oh, wait a minute, in 2009, Andy Nowicki actually used this word. So let's give him a 30-day ban.
Yeah. Yeah, that has happened to me. It's happened, I'm pretty sure, to you and to plenty of others. But what's happened to us this past week is something entirely different. Now, when these temporary bans would take place, as I understand it, there would be a snitch. There'd be somebody who would complain or who would file a report or something. Yeah. But it's clear to me that you and I and some others have been are on a naughty list, generally speaking. And the reason why I say that
basically we're being deplatformed without anybody actually bothering to read any of the content.
Yeah, well, that's, you know, I have, as far as I know, abided by all the terms and conditions. You know, since I knew that you couldn't say these words, I've stopped saying these words. And I don't think I've been a bad boy at all by Facebook standards, recently. And yet, nevertheless, let's see, when was it? I think it was on Tuesday of this past week. I checked my Facebook page, and suddenly it said that I couldn't bring it up, and then suddenly I found out that it's been permanently disabled. And then there was some other thing that said, you know, click on this if you want to find out why. And then they're saying, well, this can happen for various reasons, blah, blah, blah. But if you think this has happened in error, please fill out this form.
No, there's nothing that's not going to do anything. Yeah, there's very little recourse when this sort of thing happens, with especially with Facebook. Yeah. Actually, in the case of Google, because our blog is actually hosted on Google, And following Charlottesville, the hysteria that generated, they shut down our Blogspot site, and that continued for a couple of months. But I did appeal, and for whatever reason, I'm not sure why, they reconsidered their decision and they reinstated our Blogspot. But in the case of Facebook, I'm not quite as sanguine.
Yeah, well, it is interesting that happened with Google, and I was reminded of that. And I think that the timing for our reinstatement on Google was actually we might owe our continued existence on Google to Ted Cruz, because he was holding some hearing where he was really grilling the Google people about censorship and about how it shouldn't, how conservative or right wing opinions were being censored on Google, and I remember
yes,
it was
but no, yes, but no, because we're the sort of opinion that Conservative Inc. is quite happy to throw under the bus, every day of the week.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So for whatever reason it was, whether it was in some way related to Ted Cruz or not, we got our site back. But what happened here was, they talk about getting zooked, and I've heard a lot of people refer to such and such. Oh, I got zooked, meaning I lost or I'm in suspension for X amount of time for this, that, or the other thing. But this was for me, and I guess I just told my story. This was for me a permanent thing that just came on all of a sudden, apropos of nothing. Mm-hmm. I mean, I hadn't been provocative. I'd been, well within the terms and conditions of the site.
We don't know that, because they're not really defined, are they? So the terms and conditions mean whatever they fucking want them to mean at any given moment. So it's if you're going to have terms and conditions, please kind of define things, specify things clearly so that they are not ambiguous. Otherwise your terms and conditions are just self-serving bullshit.
And that's what I think it is for all of the tech companies. I think it's all, there's this facade of them going about things lawfully, but or there being rules and so forth. But I really think it does come down to they do what they want, and they find a way to justify doing what they want.
It's not even them doing what they want. This was obviously driven by certain other, people, personalities, events, and incidents. Before this happened, Zuckerberg, I think, I'm not sure when exactly, but a few months ago, probably, Zuckerberg said something about, he didn't agree with a lot of the opinions on Facebook, but he wasn't going to censor them. And he was, this was used in reference to Holocaust revisionism, which is a kind of historical movement which likes to re-examine a specific series of events in history. And he said that, even though I don't really agree with them, and I think it's actually quite terrible what these people are saying, I think it's wrong to kind of censor this. And that generated a big response, I think, from groups like especially the ADL, the so-called anti-defamation league, which does nothing but defame people nowadays. And then we had this remarkable kind of clown world spectacle of what's his name, Sacha Baron Cohen, aka Borat, and Ali G, and numerous other kind of racially insensitive stereotypes and caricatures. Making a speech where he criticized Facebook for giving a platform to hate. And then round about the same time, we've also got this interesting little clip of our old friend and associate Richard Spencer going on a bit of a rant. I'm not going to quote that, obviously, but this well-known rant where he was talking about a certain ethnic group in a kind of very emotional rhetoric that evoked memories of the Third Reich, amongst others. And so all this kind of works together to put pressure on Facebook. And then you had people in the press, like this Guardian journalist, this Chinese Jewish Guardian journalist called, I think her name was Carrie Wong or something like that. And so she did a story about how Facebook is empowering hate speech with regard to certain sites, certain pages. Among the pages she put on her little hit list was ours for some reason, which she obviously had never read, Red Ice Radio, and now she's trying to get VDare also kicked off Facebook. So this is all going on, and while this is all going on and people are kind of reacting to things in a very reactionary sort of knee-jerk way, nobody's actually taken the trouble to have a look at what our site is doing, which is it's presenting a variety of opinions from a variety of perspectives, and it's not using any kind of racial smears or conventional kind of hate speech terminology. It's just dealing in ideas and objective facts and people's opinions backed up by objective facts, So amongst the many sort of articles we've had all sorts of articles like attacking people on the alt-right for their obviously excessive or unhinged behavior. We've had articles attacking Richard Spencer. We've had articles attacking Andrew Anglin. We've also had articles attacking certain kind of Nazi-tarred myths. There's various Nazi-tarred myths which people put out there to encourage sympathy for a kind of Hitlerian perspective and sort of like toxic anti-Semitic ideas. And we've had several articles actually deconstructing that and, revealing how unfounded a lot of it was. So, it's the actual content on our site and on our Facebook page in no way merited this kind of strong-armed censorship. But having said that, I'm not in the least surprised that this happens, because this is how censorship is done these days. It's done algorithmically. It's done with word lists. So, for example, if you write a lot of articles criticizing Hitler, the word search will pick up that your site is mentioning Hitler a lot. And therefore, the assumption is that your website is supporting Hitler, which is completely stupid and retarded. And, the Facebook page that was deplatformed by Facebook, our Facebook page,
Affirmative Right.
Yeah, the Affirmative Right Facebook page had over 10,000 likes and follows. Originally, this page was set up, I think, in 2010 by Richard Spencer when he founded Alternative Right, and that was the official Facebook page of Alternative Right. Then in December 2013. When Richard decided to, shut down the site, we didn't agree with that, as you know, and we reestablished the site. And one of the things that I did was to take over the Facebook page and to remove Richard Spencer as an administrator of that page. And so then that site passed into my control, and I made you a fellow administrator, and several other people as well. Yeah. And that site was then later rebranded as Affirmative Right when we decided that the term Alternative Right had become a little bit too associated with a retarded form of, TRS, Daily Shower, Daily Stormer kind of Nazi-esque trolling.
Right. Yes, that is the history of the Facebook page. I had forgotten that you were able to keep the site the Facebook page up. Or I had I would have assumed that Richard would have, after the Christmas Day purge in 2013, when he decided to start Radix and to close down Alternative Right 1.0, without telling us that he was going to do it, and he just abruptly did it. I would have assumed that he would have tried to redirect all the traffic on Facebook towards Radix, but I guess you prevented that from happening.
Yeah. I mean, one of Richard's negative virtues is his laziness, so he forgot to do that.
Mm. But that now that you mentioned what happened in 2013, this deplatforming by Facebook brought back memories of that for me, because although it was that was something that happened because Richard Spencer abruptly decided to just end the site.
Well, that's a good point, because one of the things that really stands out about Affirmative Right is we're sort of deplatformed by both sides. On the one hand, the leftist controlled big tech doesn't like us, obviously, but on the other hand, the kind of Nazi-esque retard wing of the alt-right hates our guts as well. And so, we're getting sort of people kind of shadow banning us or deplatforming us from both sides,
Right.
So, when you try to walk that kind of middle line between, two vices, and, the path of virtue is always between two vices in the Aristotelian system. When you try to walk that middle line, you piss off people on one side and the other, and so you're kind of caught in the middle in a certain sense.
Right. Yes, that's true. That's very true. What reminded me of it, though, was just suddenly getting on the page, as I remember back then, and seeing this page cannot be found. What in the world? What's going on here? And the same thing happened to me the other day when I tried to get on my Facebook page, and suddenly it was gone. And we should also say, just expansive.
Yeah, but Andy, didn't you also feel a vague sense of relief about it as well?
Well, I'm going to get to that in a second. Yes, I mean, I've been on the fence about Facebook and about social media generally for a while now, just sort of thinking, I don't know if this was ever such a good idea. I mean, I've met people on social media that I wouldn't have met otherwise, and in some ways it's been fun and everything. But I think the whole point behind it all was probably nefarious. But before talking any more about that, let's just mention expansively what all was discontinued, was just wiped out by the Facebook authorities. My private page, not private, my Facebook page.
Your personal page.
My personal page is what I mean to say, which I've had up since 2008, I believe, and your personal page, which you've had up since somewhere around the same time, both gone. The Affirmative Right Facebook page gone. I had an alternate page. I mean, they were very thorough, because the times in the past when I had gotten zooked temporarily, I had I had opened up an alternate Facebook page, S.A. Nowicki, which was obviously also me, but that's gone too. I at one point I had an author page that was on Facebook called Andy Nowicki, author, legend in his own grime, and I hadn't really contributed to that much lately, but it was something that
too much to do.
But that was gone. All those things were gone. Your page is gone. The Affirmative Right page is gone. Your Trad News page is also gone. And what is there something? I feel like I'm missing something or other. Was there something else that?
I had I also had a Facebook page called No More Brother Wars, which is a kind of generally an anti-war page, and that was also zucked. And actually, my brother's Facebook was also zucked, and he wasn't even involved in
Oh no,
the
they got
affirmative
your
right.
brother too.
I actually included him on the affirmative right group as a kind of admin, just in case I got zucked. And he wasn't active at all, but his personal page also got zucked. So I think a few other people's pages were part of this kind of major shutdown by Facebook.
It has been part of a major push. A few days ago, you've definitely had your differences with Greg Johnson, and I've had some differences with him as well. But we should mention that he also, I think maybe a week or so before our pages got shut down, his page got shut down by Facebook, and maybe the Countercurrents page. I'm sure the Countercurrents page, if it was even still up on Facebook, was also shut down. Mm-hmm. I had heard tell that Keith Preston had, our friend who we've interviewed before, lost his Facebook page. But the last I checked, it seems to be up again. So maybe he got reinstated. But yeah, it seems that there are names on a certain list, and we are among them. It's not, so it happened to us, but it didn't just happen to us. It's happened to
also it was happened to Red Ice, because I remember in the Guardian article, which was commenting on this great victory for the left, they mentioned two sites specifically, which were Red Ice and ourselves. And I think Henrik and Lana both got their personal pages obliterated by Facebook. So a lot of people have lost a lot of personal interactions with other people. But in a way, so what? Who cares? It's just a lot of social media data that it was very, very. I mean, Facebook is not a very good social media platform, in my opinion. It's very hard to actually control your data. I've found it's very hard to kind of go back and delete things, and organize things. And so, in a way, the best thing that can sometimes happen to you is to have your entire Facebook page deleted, because that saves you a lot of time and trouble trying to go back and edit out things that you no longer want to appear or no longer want to be accessible to certain nefarious agents. So I'm quite happy in a way that it all got taken down at once, because I think social media does take an increasingly large part of people's days. And so if you can minimize that in some way, I'd certainly advise you to do so.
That's what I was thinking, I can honestly say this, I know some listeners will say, oh, that's just sour grapes. But I can honestly tell you, like, for months prior to this happening, I was thinking to myself, should I keep my Facebook page? Is it really, I mean, it has its charms. It's fun to post things and to get people commenting on things. And I've met some people there who I thought were fun and nice people or interesting people and all of that. But ultimately, it just, the more I heard about Facebook and the more I heard about other types of social media, it just seems like, in the words of Admiral Akbar, it's a trap. It was always a trap. And there was something about, I think even maybe one of the founders of Facebook, I can't think of his name right now, but he came out maybe a year ago, maybe a couple of years ago, and said, we were trying, Facebook was an effort to try to create a control grid through, controlling people's dopamine by getting them addicted to likes and making them want to, just OD on dopamine, which supposedly your brain receptors respond to if you've posted something and whether it's a comment or whether it's a link to an article or whatever it is, and you get all these likes or all these nice comments from others, then it goes to your head. And dopamine is, it's not that it's bad to feel good about your accomplishments, but it seems that with social media, it's there's a part of the whole nefarious plan was to get us just more and more detached from the outside world and more just involved in this stupid virtual stuff that wasn't even real.
Yeah, but wait, they're doing that just to make money, aren't they, Andy? I mean, I don't want to go off the deep end here. I mean, why else would they be doing something so nefarious? Yeah, I mean, basically,
I might suggest.
Yeah, I mean, basically, we're living in an age of alienation and atomization, when people are feeling very disconnected. They don't spend enough time with their family. They don't spend enough time face to face with their friends. They're stressed out by their job or their consumer habits or whatever. And, Facebook comes along and it creates a very kind of easy way to replace that sense of being part of a community and, having people notice you and respond to you. And so, but in a way, it's a bit like the pornography of social interaction. Instead of providing you with real sex, pornography provides you with a kind of distorted and disgusting simulacra of sex. And I think you can say more or less the same thing about a lot of social media.
Right. It provides you with affirmation. It provides you with good feelings, but that are unearned, which could also be, the whole phenomenon of free porn. That's a real, which everyone has access to today. That's a real, that's a really interesting thing to ponder. If it was all about the money, if it was just about making money, as you were sarcastically hinting a few minutes ago, then why would they ever make porn free?
But they probably do make money. I haven't looked into it, but there must be a way in which having a lot of free porn out there eventually makes money for certain people through ads or links, or people are going to free porn sites. They're going to get bored with the porn after a while. They want something a bit harder, a bit stronger, a bit more in their particular direction that they're interested in going. And then they find that maybe if I just pay for this, I'll the journey will continue. And so I think people do actually make money out of the free porn world. I mean, I think it's one of those things that really needs looking at in detail. So if anybody really wants to have a good long look at how porn makes money, be my guest. But I can't be bothered personally to look into that. But I suspect it's mainly for a financial reason. And with Facebook too, I think ultimately it's for a financial reason. But there are also there is also an element of social control and political control, I think, because what happens is something like Facebook inevitably has a lot of connections to the deep state, let's call it, to the American government, and it is actually used for various kinds of security processes. And you can see this quite clearly because kind of rival states actually go out of their way to block American-controlled tech and social media companies. Facebook is not encouraged in places like China and Russia.
I think it's banned in China, isn't it? Isn't Facebook and Twitter, aren't they both banned in China, or am I misunderstanding?
Something along those lines. I mean, something you can look into, but I think they're not given free rein. That's for sure.
Right.
The country is basically firewalled in some way. In the case of Russia, the thing I notice is that the Russians provide lots of similar services that these American tech companies provide. So, for example, with Facebook, the Russians have VK.com, which is basically a Russian version of Facebook. They also have mail services that compete with Google and Gmail. So they have Yandex. So for almost every single major American-controlled or Western-controlled tech or social media company in these countries, they have a kind of clone of that. And that's because they want to encourage their people to go on a platform that their government has some sort of control over, rather than the American government having access to all that information. So there is a kind of social media Cold War or tech war developing between these major powers. They realize that allowing your opponent, your rival power, to control your social media is not going to end well. And this is basically a confirmation that even though social media, Facebook, Google, all the rest of them are actually businesses, on another level, they are actually part of the political and deep state nexus.
The control grid, one might say. Yeah, absolutely. So, I think that, and it's, this is something, I could, it's another thing I could stand to hear more research, more specific research about. But it's my understanding that something like Facebook or something like the internet existed on a deep state level before it ever existed in the way that it exists now. And I don't know, there's a lot about the official story of how Facebook was created, just who Mark Zuckerberg is, and what, whether, obviously he's a person. He's a strange person, if he is a person.
All we really know about him is that he fears us, Andy.
Yes, that's right. He was at one time, I think, going to run for president. I think that's off now, but as far as we know. But yeah, so again, for me, I was thinking for a lot of reasons. Number one, I think that, it's obvious. Obviously, even if it was working the way that it was supposed to work, I get the impression still that it's an element of surveillance, that it's a place where people who want to store data on you and on others, it and other social media platforms probably serve that purpose.
Yeah, but on the other hand, they don't actually look at the data. This is the thing. They have all this. They have reams and reams and reams of data on billions of people now. Setting aside all the fake Facebook accounts, but they have reams and reams of data. But they don't have the intelligence or the time or the effort to actually go into all that data and intelligently understand it. Because any intelligent person who went into our data would have thought, wait a minute, these guys are just kind of common sense, normal, kind of intelligent, well-adjusted people who are saying things based upon, facts and data and logic. That's what they would have basically found. So they don't actually go into the data. they maybe algorithms, kind of weird iBots sift through it and do weird kind of word searches or associational searches. Such and such a person is friends with such and such a person who's friends with such and such a person, and they've used this word this number of times at this particular juncture. And so, it's all algorithmically determined, which means it's actually blind censorship. I mean, I don't mind censorship in a way. Even bigoted, biased censorship, you can say, okay, there's a kind of human component. I don't, even though I don't agree with it, I can see they're motivated by certain kind of primitivistic emotions, and it's sort of a natural human thing. But it's not even that. It's this kind of blind censorship, which sort of ties into my theme that a lot of these things, they're not really big, nasty, evil conspiracies. It's just they're more like cancer. It's just like the world's become out of control. Things are moving under their own distorted momentum. And so that's what I see in this case, because nobody actually knows what we were posting, but we still got, we still got censored or deplatformed, even though nobody actually took the trouble to look at what we were posting. So that is just a kind of blind, stupid, insane process.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's one of those things where I think that it's sort of like a balancing act in assessing the deep state or the powers that be, and you don't want to underestimate what they're capable of and the kind of things that they can end up doing, because I think they do terrible things, and deplatforming people on Facebook is only the tip of the iceberg for the kind of things that they're capable of. But on the other hand, like you're saying, I think they're a bunch of idiots sometimes, and I think we overestimate them. Some of the dissident figures, some people on the dissident right, or just who are dissident thinkers generally. I think sometimes they make the mistake of getting too black-pilled, as they say, and just saying, "Oh, they're all over us. They know all our secrets. This is 1984. It's Big Brother," and it's just that sort of ultra totalitarian state of things, where I just don't think they're smart enough. I think they're.
This case proves it. This case proves that they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, I think so, because I think
we're not the Daily Stormer. We're not the Daily Stormer. We're not starting a race war now.
Yes. I haven't. Yeah, I've said this. I think I said this when I did my live cast. There's a sense of surreality about all of this, because it's like, what, they think that I'm dangerous. They think that I'm somebody who needs to be silenced. What
they really do think that, Andy, because you had the FBI knocking on your door.
I know. I know. I have things like that happening to me, and what have I done or said? I just don't feel that dangerous.
The FBI knocking on your door really shows you how fucking clueless the FBI are, sorry to say.
Yeah. So I don't think we should. I don't think we should underestimate their nefariousness, but on the other hand, I don't think we should overestimate their intelligence. So it's like a balancing act, how to look at it. You can't get, and I think so. I get so tired of this.
Right. I'm just reminded of Inspector Clouseau from the Pink Panther for some reason.
Yeah, they are like Inspector Clouseau in many ways.
It's like what happened in London. Was it today or yesterday? Anyway, what happened in London? It wasn't. It wasn't the fucking police who they actually let this terrorist out of jail early, and they put a bracelet, an electronic bracelet around his ankle, as if that's going to ensure his good behavior. And it was members of the public that actually managed to bring him down with a narwhal tusk and a fire extinguisher. That just shows you we've got this massive anti-terrorist establishment in the UK, and how do we stop terrorists? Okay, we use a fucking narwhal tusk and a fire extinguisher. You stop overestimating these idiots. I mean, these people who run very, very complex societies don't understand those very, very complex societies. They're continually out of their depth. They don't know what's happening. They don't know what is going to happen, whereas we have a much, much better idea both of what's going on now and what will come later.
Yeah, I agree. And so I think that's an important, hate to keep using this terminology, but white pill if you want to put it that way, to take out of all of this, because there are so many doom and gloomers among the dissident right that I really can't stand. I can't stand to hear that stuff. Like because I think it's not only is it demoralizing, it's just wrong. It's just
if that's incorrect. What you think, fuck off and be a normie.
Right. If there's no hope whatsoever, why? Yeah.
Go shopping. Exactly. Yeah. Go shopping.
Maybe we could end with the question: what does this portend for the current state of freedom of speech on the internet and so forth, and how will it affect us, you and I and others, going forward? What do you think?
Well, that's a big question, isn't it? Like, what are they going to do next, and so on? Well, I think at some point it's going to be a problem. The kind of obvious leftist bias of social media. Yeah, you would think that now would be the ideal time for somebody like Trump to sort of step in and tackle it. But of course, they've managed to kind of keep Trump off balance, so that he's not really able to deal with too many things. I mean, the president of the United States, whoever he is, has extremely limited powers. So
it seemed that way.
Yeah, so I'm not really sure that it's going to come from that direction. But the thing is, censorship doesn't really work. In fact, sometimes censorship can be a positive thing. And the case I cite for this is the difference between America and Europe, of course. Now, in Europe, we've always had some degree of censorship, especially with regard to the kind of retarded kind of neo-Nazi narratives, which in Europe could actually get you a fine or a jail sentence. I think Jean-Marie Le Pen, the founder and former leader of the Front National, he was actually fined because he said that the Holocaust was a detail of history. Which doesn't sound like a particular, I mean, it sounds a little bit, insensitive possibly, but it doesn't sound like out and out kind of hate speech. But, this is the kind of climate that has existed in many European countries. And because of that, they've avoided the unfortunate tendency that certain people who are nationalistically inspired have for veering towards the kind of Adolf Hitler side of things. And in America, whenever people become nationalistic, they tend to extol the Confederacy, and then they get into the Ku Klux Klan and the Third Reich, and this becomes the perceived image of white identitarianism in America. And as you know, it's a very kind of self-ghettoizing form of white nationalism. So it's practically pointless. And the alt-right was initially an attempt to escape from that confining framework. Now in Europe, they haven't had that problem because there is censorship. Those kind of negative forms of white identitarianism are not able to take over nationalistic movements. And so nationalistic movements become much more normie friendly, much wider based, and much more successful. And so in most European countries, you have quite large nationalistically inclined political parties competing for power.
Right. That's true. It kind of reminds me of I don't remember who this author was, but some author sometime somewhere, speaking of the censors, said that it was actually a good thing to have a censor because it helps you become more clever and more, because you can't just put things out there directly. You find ways of doing it that are more interesting and ways of expressing your ideas that again you find your way to you find your way around the censor, because a lot of the times the censors, they just they see words and phrases, and they're not like they're not looking that deep at things, so you can give put the same message out there.
Censorship tends to be rigid. And so when censorship is rigid, the people who are fighting the censorship become much more agile. And so you're all kind of a bit pissed off by the fact that censorship exists, stopping you from expressing something which you feel is legitimate. And so that also intensifies your drive to actually fight against the system.
Yeah. Right.
So I think, censorship is going to exist. So fucking what, it's going to provoke a reaction, and that reaction might be the last thing that the people imposing the censorship fucking want.
And I have to wonder too. I mean, like the mass media, the tech companies, it seems like almost everyone who holds the reins of power, and this isn't to extol Trump or say that Trump is for real or anything like that necessarily, but we do know that in 2015, 2016, they were all, uniformly against Trump and blasted out anti-Trump stuff all the time, left and right. And same with Brexit, right?
Yep,
I mean,
exactly.
You'd be more aware of that than I, and that didn't stop Brexit from passing, and it didn't stop Trump from getting elected. So how powerful is this, supposedly all powerful media, really? They can control what we.
It's like the Soviet Union. The Communist Party had complete control of the media, the education system, every aspect and facet of life. But still, the country kind of woke up one day and said, "Oh, fuck communism."
Yeah, and the people knew all along what was, they knew in their hearts what the truth was. They just knew they had to be careful about saying it in certain places and certain times. I mean, I think the same applies now. It's a very there's a lot more. There's a lot of startling parallels I find between Soviet era Russia and now in the United States and in Western Europe. Obviously it's not the same. You don't get thrown into the gulag for saying the wrong thing necessarily, but
hey, who knows? They might try that next, Andy.
Yeah, I know. I don't say that that's impossible to, and it happens sometimes in England. I know people have gone to prison for quote unquote racist tweets and so forth. So it's not.
That's right. That's right. The policemen who were late for the terrorist incident, the recent terrorist incident on London Bridge, I assume they were late because they were probably arresting somebody for a mean tweet.
Yeah, that's right. They heard somebody say a rude racial slur, and that caught all their attention. So,
or else somebody forgot to pay their BBC license fee. So they had to go knock on their door. Terrorist attack could wait a few minutes.
But just to finish my point, I do think that it sounds hyperbolic to say, oh, it's just like the Soviet Union. And I'm not saying it's just like it, but I think there is metaphorically speaking, there are these parallels in that people know what they're not supposed to say, but they know the truth about certain things.
Yeah.
When it comes to certain subjects,
Well, they know that they know what they're supposed to say, but they don't actually live it or act it. They, this we're all supposed to be, for example, we're all supposed to love each other, and there's no racial differences whatsoever, and we're all equal, and blah blah blah. We're all individuals. Do people actually live like that? Do they actually buy their property based on that idea? Do they send their children to school in accordance with that idea? Obviously, they don't. So people are living this kind of schizophrenic existence, just as they were in the Soviet Union.
Exactly. That's my point. That even though, it's obviously more prosperous and more and still generally more free than the Soviet Union was, but we still have this oppressive regime telling us what we're supposed to believe, and what they're telling us we're supposed to believe are things that are completely in violation with what we know to be reality. So, so that's the similarity. That's the striking similarity that I see.
Tastes exactly the same.
Yeah. And what happened to us and others? What has happened to us and others on Facebook and other places, that these are just symptoms of that, and maybe it's going to get nastier. Maybe they'll push down harder, but maybe it'll be like Princess Leia says to Darth Vader, the more you squeeze, the more it slips through your fingers.
Wow, these Star Wars references. That's such a subversive movie, I have to say. No wonder they had to kill it.
Trilogy. The original trilogy I'm talking here.
Yeah, no wonder they had to actually kill it off with this kind of more woke, shitty version.
Yeah, exactly. So on that note, Andy Nowicki, Colin Liddell, signing off.